Hello, everyone, and welcome to our ASAE Lunchtime Learning webinar. Today's series, Are You Ready for Marketing Automation? It's my pleasure to hand the floor over to your speaker for today, Suzanne Carowin, Chief Marketing Officer at HIghRoad Solution. Suzanne, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for joining me today to talk about a super hot topic that's now that's not necessarily new, but it's now a big piece of what's happening in the association world. So I think it's particularly important that we address this topic early in the year, as I think you're going to hear more and more and more about it as we go forward. So let's go through what we're going to actually look at today. So the whole topic is on marketing automation as a whole, and there's a ton of information out in the marketplace. It might be on sites and from companies you're not that familiar with, but we're going to go through that today. But we're also going to look at understanding the topic as a whole, and that is a multi-pronged approach we need to look at to really understand it. So we're going to first address right out of the gate, what is this thing? What are the platforms? Because that's what we don't need to be held in suspense to the end of it. So we're going to cruise through that. But then we're going to get into what we think is really the more interesting aspect of this conversation, which is this is not a technology play. This is not something that you need to buy a new tool. This is really a fundamental shift in how organizations are doing business. And this is a shift that's already taken place in the for-profit sector and is now into the association world. And we're going to talk about why that is and why this shift is happening. So marketing automation is really, it's a tool set, but underneath it, there is a much bigger root cause for why these tools and technologies are now all the rage. And we really want to address that piece of it. And to understand that, we're going to have to really assess, critically look at what the association market is doing in terms of marketing in today's world, why now is the right time, what's missing in our current technology stack in our organization, and understanding the user. Because that's really what's going to allow us, if we can understand those three bullets, we're going to understand why marketing automation is such a big buzzword right now, or sometimes called inbound marketing or those things, and why it's really a phenomenon, and then why it's kind of pushing forward on digital transformation. So let's hop into it. So as I said first, let's just address straight on what is marketing automation, and to do that, I went to our trusty Wikipedia definition and just pulled that right out of there. So we can just say it. So what it is, marketing automation is really a broad category. It's not one thing. How about that? It is a broad category of marketing technology that really is focused in on a lot of times bundling together a lot of different processes that you're really already now doing. It's very unusual for us to come across an organization who isn't doing multiple pieces of marketing technology. It's just that marketing automation platforms in particular have bundled these things together. And so the likely things that you see bundled together are things like website, email, excuse me, landing pages, forms, maybe keywords, some sort of workflow processes so you can do some automation. All of these kinds of bits, blogs can be in there. All of these bits of digital technology, most organizations are doing at least three of them. It's just that what the difference of marketing automation makes it is that it's bringing together those tools to do it, and behind it is putting together really a data structure to allow you to assess it and analyze it very quickly. And that's probably the big differentiating piece of these technologies that are out there now. It's the comprehensive nature of not having all of these siloed point solutions that you have to go and try to get analytics from everyone and then try to assess it together to create some sort of comprehensive profile. And we're going to delve into that. So marketing automation, again, category of technology that's really focused on allowing an organization to streamline all of the digital touch points from perhaps the first time a user has gotten to one of your digital properties, whether that be a website or a landing page or a blog, et cetera, all the way through to the point where you capture their email address, you start to know them, and hopefully all the way through the sales cycle. So you're going through the entire buyer's journey all the way until they become a customer, and then you're continuing to nurture them further to go from maybe being a one-time customer to a repeat customer so hopefully an evangelist. And so that entire process of how do I streamline and measure and automate all of those touch points and house all that data in one system is what is the umbrella, if you will, of marketing automation, the category. Okay, so it's more than again, we have to understand that we have an entire buyer's journey, and we're trying to capture, measure, and automate that entire process. So having said that, remember what I said, it's not just one thing. So we can say now, why is it so complicated? Who does it? And you will see that we have a whole massive number of companies now who are offering marketing automation technology, hence why it's so confusing, because it seems like everybody does it. You have companies that have always done email, and they'll slap up the word inbound marketing on their website, and they're like, oh, now they're in the inbound game. So and it's true. Everybody has kind of pieces of this that they're doing. So just to break it down, who's kind of in the marketing automation? Remember I told you all of those types of tools and technologies, blogs and landing pages and websites and forms and email subscriptions. So all those components are in many, many different pieces of software. So you've got email companies in there saying we're doing some aspects of marketing automation. You certainly have your association management system or your customer relationship management companies. They're in the marketing automation game. Certainly Salesforce is in the marketing automation game. Excuse me. You've got content management systems out there saying that they have pieces of marketing automation. A lot of them bundle in email already. You have marketing automation companies that are pure play. That's the only thing they do. They make marketing automation software. They're a whole different category. You've got other types of public relations technology companies saying they have aspects of it. Social media, communities, online social software, they all have fundamental pieces of marketing automation in there now, right? So there's all sorts of players in this market. And so it's interesting to find out when you're going into this you need to be working with experts who understand what pieces do you need in your technology stack, what's missing, how do you combine these things together. But remember what I was saying, the key is really to create some sort of ecosystem of data, because it's all about the data. So the tool's it'll get you somewhat there. But really the critical piece about marketing automation is how you're going to employ it and how available can you make the data for measurement. So just remember, it's a crowded space. So if you get in there and you're like, wow, it seems like everybody does this. Every one of my vendors is saying that they can do it. It's probably a true statement. There is some piece of it that they are doing. It's being able to understand, and now it's a more sophisticated purchase. It's a more sophisticated buyer to understand which pieces of technology does what and how do you want to use them. And then understanding there's going to be overlap, and that's okay because that's a more sophisticated ecosystem of marketing technology that we're all moving to. So having said that, who are the top players in the marketing automation market itself? So if we look at the actual pure play providers of marketing automation platforms, these are really the major players in the world. So you've got your big ones of Marketo and HubSpot. You certainly have Salesforce in there. They have, if you remember, excuse me, they've purchased ExactTarget on the email side and Pardot on kind of the automation side, and they bundled all that together with Salesforce to make their Salesforce cloud. HubSpot's always been a pure play on marketing automation and inbound marketing. Marketo, the same thing. And then Oracle bought Eloqua, and Eloqua is a big competitor to Marketo and HubSpot, but now Oracle consumed them. They're a part of their kind of now marketing technology cloud. And all of these things should basically tell you that all the big boy players out there in the world, the big software companies, clearly this is a huge area for growth for them. And I should note that marketing automation is not new. Just because it's new to the association world, it's not necessarily new to the for-profit world. As a matter of fact, it's been around for at least 10 years, and probably our estimates are Demand Metric has done a study for us estimating that the association market is about 7 years behind. So this is not new technology or new methodologies by any means. It's just new to our market, and we want to talk about why. So in understanding the platforms on the market, and by the way, I'll just note, you're probably interested because if you're aware of all the vendors in the association technology world, you're probably looking and saying, wow, these are a lot of names that either I don't recognize or these aren't the names that I see all the time. And that's worthy to note because, again, this is a different, this is kind of the software world that the for-profit space has played in all this time, and it's really now coming into the association world. From our viewpoint, a lot of the larger associations, these are the tools and technologies that they use. They care very much about things like data security and high availability and things like that, and they want to use the same tools that the, let's say, Fortune 500s, 1000, et cetera, use. So understanding platforms on the market and understanding the features. So if you look here are the 10 key features, and this is pulled out of businesssoftware.com. And so I pulled out kind of the 10 key features of what you would see in a marketing automation platform. And that can then help you to discern, well, how is that different from what we have today? So these are kind of some of the key checkpoints. So the key checkpoints are, it's going to be a software as a service platform, meaning you're not going to buy software, you're not going to install it from a DVD, into a server that you have in the back office. It's not on-site, on-premise type of software. This is all cloud-based software as a service. All of these technologies you're usually paying based on the volume of people that you have in the database and things like that. So that's a very common way that software, this is kind of platform as a service, is sold. It also has some of the kind of the mainstay features is that it's going to always have landing pages that include forms, and landing pages are to capture really new people and to capture the email address is the key piece there, because the email address is the driver's license of the digital world. If you have the email address and I can drop a cookie on your browser, I have the ability now to really do a lot more tracking about you. That's kind of a key feature of marketing automation. With marketing automation, what we're trying to do is capture as many digital touch points as we can about a user, because I'm trying to build a profile on them, and what I'm trying to do is understand how to best serve that individual person on a one-to-one basis so that I can have the right touch points at the right time with the right content. We're trying to move to this one-to-one, hyper-personalized, user-driven kind of world. And so marketing automation, that is one of the premises for it. So that you'll have landing pages that include forms. Certainly there's an email marketing component because that is a key piece. Once someone has willingly provided their email address, or I have a working relationship with them, or I have the correct permission to email them, certainly I want to employ email marketing as a one-to-one communication to be able to deliver additional, hopefully relevant and highly valuable content. So email marketing is always a core piece of these marketing automation platforms. But what's interesting is the way that they understand email marketing is not so much the way that associations use email marketing. So marketing automation systems, if you talk to them, they're thinking of email marketing from a one-to-one standpoint, like I download an eBook, I receive an email thanking me with the next step. Not necessarily I'm about to, send out a monthly newsletter to 10,000 people, things like that. So it's just something to note, an interesting one. So if you're out shopping, you do want to ask a very key question, which is how does it handle email? How many can you send? Things like that. Because associations, as we all know, love our emails, and we send a lot. So it's something to consider. So the other kind of key features that you see within a marketing automation platform are going to be other types of content and search engine optimization tools. This is where things like some systems include websites to them. Like you can actually build your website within, or maybe microsites would be a better way to say it, within the marketing automation platform. You can build blogs on it. It includes things like keywords and how do I optimize so that I get searched. And there's a good reason for that is because marketing automation tools are focused typically on growth and acquisition of new people and how I can nurture them and then retain them. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit, a couple more minutes, and talk about why that's so important. So you'll usually see those pieces. And then certainly you're going to see a lot around campaign level management. So how can I put all of these pieces together? So I might have as part of my content tools also social media tools, right? So I'm bundling, and maybe currently I'm going out and using Twitter, or I'm using Hootsuite. I would abandon that. I'd put that all under marketing automation, and those would be some of my content tools, let's say social. But what I really want to do is really automate the way that I'm measuring, let's say, my promotion for my annual meeting, and I'm going to promote using email, online purchase banner ads, let's say. I'm going to use maybe Google AdWords. I'm going to use maybe Facebook. I'm going to use blogs. I'm going to use, again, social media. And I want to measure it all together in one fell swoop and have it automated for me. So all that measurement is coming up so I can see overall for my entire spend that I put on digital for my annual meeting, what did I get back? That's what I want to know. That's one of the big pieces that marketers struggle with, because to show return on that spend, currently I have to probably go out to 7 to 17 different pieces of software to get all those data touch points. And with marketing automation, I've solved that problem. That's probably the biggest reason that marketers are saying. So again, for most marketers, these things are not new. You're already posting content to a website. You're putting in email. You're doing social. You're trying to measure the best you can with any spare minute you have. So that's not new. You know that. You know the pain of doing this. The technology people might not totally get the pain or understand why that's inefficient in today's world, but you get it and you're doing it. The marketing automation tools make it much easier for you to put that together and for you to measure and you to actually free up your time to create. The technology people, the marketing people typically don't understand the data structure and how can I get that data out of, let's say, how can I utilize my data in my Aptify or Personify or Netforum or IMS or Salesforce or my custom database. How can I leverage that and use that more efficiently in my one-to-one communication? That's where the technology side understands the data. They can free it up for the marketer. The marketer can get new technology tools to allow them to become more efficient and to be able to think more and analyze. So hence the marketing automation is the pure play between marketing and technology. They're really coming together now. Right? And they're kind of like the last frontier, I think, in the association world of like the marketers are probably the ones that have the least sophisticated tools that they've been using for all this time. Most associations in their marketing world, right, they have email and a website and not too much more. And free social media maybe. Maybe they've got some good online communities, but they haven't had the same perhaps level of tools that some of the other departments have had, and now's the time. So we're seeing that come out, and we're going to talk about why that is. All right. The big debate always becomes, what's the deal with email versus marketing automation? Why do we need that? We already have email. Our email can do some of these things. Our email has a landing page capability in it. Our email has a form capability in it. And most really good email systems, email's been out a long time. All the systems are good. So you would expect, I would expect that's like a common, that's not something that's new and exciting to have forms and landing pages in your email. Everybody should have that. But what's different about it is that you go to the next level, does email do all of this? And these are really where the gaps fall. Most email, even if it has some marketing automation, some workflows in there, it doesn't get to the next kind of level of having some of the other content capabilities, the social media. One of my big pet peeves when people say, oh, we've got like this social stuff in email. Again, unless you have having social icons or being able to have people click on a social icon in email and post it to their Facebook page, et cetera, it doesn't really get you much. Who's going to do that? Unless you have a real social media campaign around why you're putting social icons in email and what you're going to do with it and why a user would actually use that, it's just a little marketing feature that some tech vendors just trying to get you to say it's like something special. Okay, but again, it's not the technology anymore that is going to make or break your marketing program. It's the thinking behind it. So the tools are out there. There's plenty of tools. We need the right tool for our situation, but we need to get the methodology and the thinking behind it as well. And that's why it's so important that we understand the technology. We're becoming smart shoppers, and then we're also being able to bridge some of these gaps we're about to talk about on the marketing methodology side, okay? So again, email, for most email platforms, they do have a stopping point unless they're trying to, again, run after and try to build what Marketo and HubSpot, et cetera, and Salesforce is already built. And how can you keep up with those platforms, right? You've got publicly traded companies, but that's all they're doing is putting in the platforms and the features. So why not leverage those and then focus on the marketing methodologies instead, right? That makes a lot of sense to us. So let's focus on actually getting good at marketing and use the tools that are out there and connect them in and open up and free up our data that we have in-house. So that's what the difference right there between email and marketing automation. We got a lot of tools at the end that I can show you, and there's a ton out there in the market. I don't need to keep there's a million eBooks out there and downloads and blogs you can go to give you all the things about graduating from email to marketing automation. But that's in a nutshell. The big pieces are really going to be the campaign level management and then being omni-channel is what it's called, using multiple channels in one platform to fill in the gaps. Okay, so having said that, why haven't we seen these tools in our market in the association world before now? Where have they been? What do you mean, Suzanne, that we're 7 years behind, that all of these for-profit companies have been utilizing these drip campaigns and marketing automation for all this time, and now we're just getting here? What's that about? Well, there's some very bona fide reasons for that. Namely, we haven't had some of the needs that the for-profit world has had, before us. They got there sooner because we've had a more stable population. We've had consistent customers. We've had a very good ride, right? But what's happened is that we have now had changes. We have some very significant things that have changed within our worldview as the association market as a whole. And for the vast majority, we're at a point in time where we realize that we need new something. We're we've plateaued, if not declining, and we have hit the wall in terms of understanding we now have to do something else. We have to evolve, we have to grow, or it's time for us to reinvest, and we need to do more. And here's what the need list of what all the clients we talk to all the time, the prospects we talk to, the general, all the conferences we go to, everything is about. We're at a pivotal kind of crossroads in the association overall market, and it's time to evolve and to change a lot of our business processes that we've had for the last 2 or so decades. And so the need list, if you will, for most organizations looks something like this. We need, and you fill in the blank, right? We need new members. We need new non-dues revenue. We need new millennials as members. We need to go to hyper-focused or very targeted specific markets. We can't just be like all things. We got to get very focused. We need new top-line growth. We need greater insight. We need more engagement. All of these things, because the traditional things we've been doing just aren't getting the same responses as it used to. And our populations have changed. We know that. We all have heard, all the different things on the generations in the workforce together and the number of retirees and everything else. So we've got this new need, but something else is fundamentally different because the last time we had to grow, we kind of used methods such as this. So our historic growth strategies were how do we go get new people, and all of these needs start with people. We have to get new people in order to get new customers and growth and revenue and things like that. So how do we get new people? So historically, the way we got new people was to do any of these activities. We were buying email, we were doing, we were sending, doing a ton of direct mail, maybe you were faxing, all these types of things. But the problem is that these growth strategies that worked like a charm of yesteryear are kind of something along the lines of this. They're outdated. So we have to update. They're kind of out of style. These things don't work anymore. Or something has fundamentally changed where we can't continue to employ the same growth strategies. What worked in the 80s here is not necessarily going to work anymore, and there's a lot of reasons why. So we need to stop, number one, before we say we need to grow, and we need to say, great, have we updated our growth strategies to fit modern day life? And modern day life has changed immensely because, see, back in the 80s, we didn't have things like the Canadian anti-spam law. We didn't have that. We didn't have CAN spam. We didn't have the same people. We didn't have all the same cultures. We have a lot more diversity now. We have 3 to maybe even more generations in your workforce that you're trying to market to. So these old ways that we had don't either work anymore, or they're illegal, like buying email lists. Like, I don't care how good your source is, you're not supposed to buy email lists and send email. You know, cold calling doesn't work anymore. Print advertising, maybe it's too expensive, or you can't measure it, or you just can't get there, it's not relevant anymore, or you just can't really do it. So the reality of what our growth strategies were back in maybe the late 70s or 80s, the last time we had a real boom and real investment in our association perhaps to really grow it, the reality is there's issues with all of these, and it's just not working. So the new growth strategies that associations are employing, this kind of digital transformation, has fundamentally changed. I mean, this is what the for-profits have been doing. We're now ready to adopt these as well, because for us, now's the right time. It wasn't the right time before. It wouldn't have been a good investment, but now it is a good investment. So the new growth strategies that we know, and what's great about the association world is we don't have to figure it out all on our own. We can really look to the for-profits and really just pick up on the stuff that has been proven to work. Okay, we don't have to kind of go through and figure it out. We can really model what has worked for them and adapt it into, of course, our unique situation. But actually, in this new world of marketing, associations come out way ahead of for-profits because we have so much more data on our members and we have a much closer relationship with them. It gives us more latitude to actually collect more data because we have a continuous dialogue with them that we can continue to get more info and get smarter about them and get better about our relationship with them. So actually, while we're 7 years behind, if we can get some of this new marketing methodology and get our technologies right, we can actually come up and meet the for-profit kind of where they are, if not exceed them. And that's what's really exciting in today's world, and we're seeing that happen every day. So new growth strategies are fundamentally focused on being one-to-one, being hyper-personalized, it's all about the user, being in a micro market, meaning I can't be one size fits all anymore. It's got to be independent to the individual, and I'm going to have to be able to really prove my value, prove it digitally, et cetera. And in new growth strategies, in order to do this, they're really marketing-driven. So they're no longer sales-driven. We've moved away from a sales-driven world to a marketing-driven world that is very much defined by data. It's very much on data because I'm trying to get as much data about you so that I can see patterns and trends and I can make predictions about how you're going to behave and how I can find other people like you to behave so that I can attract you and bring in like-minded people. If I have one set of members and those are the people that I can focus in on, I say if I can just get 10 more members like this group, it helps me to target where I'm going to look for new people, how I'm going to communicate with them, the channels I need to communicate with them as well, and then also what really the benefits are going to be for them, okay? Because I'm in a much more competitive market than I was back in the 80s. I didn't have the internet. I couldn't do all this research. Each individual is not trying to decide, do I put my membership dollars into my association or do I take that same money and I put it into shoes? Whatever the case may be, or my company is saying, why is this association membership worth it for my staff? If you're a trade organization, et cetera, what am I getting, or how you have to tell me how this is working for our, bottom line growth if you're out lobbying for me. There's a lot more pressure now to be very competitive and to be able to show this, and we have to do it on that one-to-one kind of basis. The new growth strategies are super focused in on data. No one's doing kind of like a spray and pray. Nobody's guessing. Very data-driven, research-focused, one-to-one. Great. That sounds awesome. Let's go do it. Okay, the problem is everything here in red is all new to most associations. Okay, so if you step back and go, great, are we ready to grow? Do we have defined micro markets? If we look across our current way that we do our website, we do our email, we do social media, et cetera, is it focused in on the user? Has it been designed for today's mobile user? Do we really know them? Is it for them? Are we providing a one-to-one hyper-personalized experience and relationship? You know, are our systems data and marketing driven? So for most organizations, that's right where they go, oh, and that's why you're seeing people come in to do digital transformation, and you have partners who are helping you to be able to do this, because we're trying to get new growth strategies put into the organization. And to do that, we've got to have the ability, we've got to have these capabilities in-house. So the reality of that is that we've got a lot of constraints. And so these are where most organizations are now putting a lot of investment to be able to bridge some of these gaps. So the reality of putting in that new growth strategy is that we've got massive education and skill gaps that we need to overcome. We have a lack of capacity on staff. The people that have these types of skills and education are very expensive. So this idea that associations have historically had, which is always let's always hire people on staff and do it ourselves, the do-it-yourself idea is actually radically going out of style. And so what organizations are doing instead is that they are partnering, and they're doing a lot more consulting, or they're having more consultants, I should say, because they don't need, maybe they need pieces of it, but they don't maybe need somebody on staff full time at this type of, you know, high salaries who have this type of skill and education. That's a big shift. That's a big shift. And it's also different because people aren't saying, let me just hire somebody who is a young professional and grow them, because they don't have anybody on staff who can grow them. That's really interesting. So when you watch organizations realize, you know, okay, can we go, should we hire in and create the skill gap, you know, bridge that gap, or should we grow somebody? They realize, well, we can't grow them because we don't have anybody on staff who knows how to do this. And you'll see that in also the reports that we put out in the last couple of years. We always ask, you know, who's your highest ranked marketer on staff? So if you don't have a marketer on staff who's probably at the VP or CMO level or has all this themselves, you can't hire somebody new and grow them. You're just going to keep doing more of the same. So it's an interesting kind of piece where people are realizing, wow, we need this marketing technology combo, and we probably need to partner to get it. The other piece is that we can look at our budgets and we see our spend, the way that we are spending money on marketing, is outdated as well. We don't have the right types of budgets. When I ask, you know, what's your percentage of revenue, that's your marketing budget, and people come back and they say like 0.5%, 1%, 3%, 4%. Those are maintenance budgets. Those aren't investment budgets. Okay, you wouldn't go to a startup or a growth-oriented company and ask them, you know, can you grow with a 3% marketing budget? It doesn't work. You need more like 7 to 15%. And that's a new one too. So a lot of CFOs are not in tune with what you need in order to grow. Okay, it's going to be an investment. And for a lot of organizations, they just don't know. They don't know what they don't know. They didn't even know there was other things that people were doing this. And that's the reality of where we are. And if we back that up with our data that we do for every year, we do a State of Digital Marketing and Associations report, and actually our 2016 data collection is out right now if you'd like to participate. What we see is that the data coming back is telling that exact same story. We're not making up this trend, we're just reporting on the trend. And you can see that because if you look at where the tactics that are used, you can see that email marketing, event marketing are very much at the top, and you can see that our budgets are going into the traditional ways and the way that we measure, and our budgets are going into the traditional ways that we've always done things, meaning like all of our money goes into email. It still goes into print and these types of things. And that's a problem because it's really a closed-loop market. So as we say that, we've just already said some of the kind of why now in the association world. We need to grow. The user has changed, right? We know to some extent we have misalignments in the organization between workforce, budget, and what we're trying to do. We're trying to say we need to grow, but we're doing the same thing, and we're not investing anymore. But somehow we're expecting different results. Well, we all know the definition. That's the definition of insanity. So the marketing technology piece of it then becomes, why is it not working with our current technology? Why can't we just keep using email and expect this to happen? And so let's go through that real quick about why, again, marketing automation is really coming to the forefront. And so if we look at our typical association stack, This is what most organizations have, okay? So certainly some of it depends on your size, but in reality, I'm pretty sure I could match you with, free tools up to enterprise-level tools that would fit, and you could still have all of these functions. So for most organizations, you have some sort of database. That's your membership database. You have a content management system, which is usually your website. You have some sort of email service that you use. You have some sort of event registration system that you use. It might be external, might be part of your association management system, right? And then fewer have some sort of additional kind of PR advocacy or like social tools. And I've put them in order. If you look at the size there for a second, that's usually the order in which the money is taken up by each one of those systems, right? So usually your association management system is taking the bulk of your technology budget, followed by your website, followed by your email, et cetera, okay? So I'm just kind of giving you that's typically what you see. Okay, and that also is kind of changing, but which is a different trend, but fascinating that's going on right now in the association space. But if you look at usage from the user viewpoint, and we look at kind of the top green arrows here is what the user experience is. The user is, again, would be your either prospective member or customer or your current member or customer. They are really kind of going and hopping. If you look at where these arrows originate, you can see that if we were to track, and you can do this on your own, how most people come to your website, you would notice very quickly that most members and customers get to your website through email. So they've received an email. They don't wake up in the morning and come there. They've received an email that has jogged their memory or piqued their interest in some way, and you put in tons of teaser copy in your email, leading them back to your website. As a matter of fact, it's typically the point of email is to bring people back to your website, or it has traditionally been. So you bring them back to your website, and from that point, you're hoping that they're going to typically do something, make a purchase, update their membership information, buy something, join something, comment on, go to the social community and get engaged, etc. But for the most part, you can see email is really what's driving that user behavior. And at the bottom, I have the red arrows on the people data. So I'm collecting data about this individual user from all of these different systems. And hopefully, I have my integrations in place where I'm trying to drive that all back into my association management system or some sort of data warehouse. Again, another big trend, data warehousing for business intelligence is becoming very big in this market. Marketing automation is going to just add to the amount of behavioral data that we have that we can now analyze, which is exciting. So the red data at the bottom, the red arrows, is the people data. We're trying to collect all that. We've got all this digital data about these people we're trying to amass so we can understand them. And the top line, or the green arrows rather, is really what's showing you how the user is getting places. And to just drive that point home further, in purple, I'm showing you exactly how most of the buyer behavior works for getting to your website to actually make purchases. And that, again, is originating from email. So this belies the problem. This is awesome. This is why email is like our number one thing that we invest in and why we send email all the time. We are like email on the brain. But if you look at it from a different viewpoint, doesn't this look like a closed ecosystem? And that's kind of the problem because email only works if you already know who to email to. So if we take our outdated growth strategy, which is buy an email list of people we don't know in order to refresh our email list, one, we shouldn't be doing that. And then two, also, it's not helping us to really organically grow. So we're just having to kind of feed the beast and try to keep using email to grow. Email's point as a tool is not a growth tool. Email is a retention tool. It is for a relationship. It is the most intimate channel that there is. And for most associations, sadly, we are shouting through our email. We're not using it in a one-to-one way whatsoever. We're totally using still the word blast. I cannot tell you how many times a week I still hear the word blast with email, which is just, if you're an email purist, you just cringe. Your knuckles go white. So it is really meant to be a one-to-one personalized communication tool. And why should it not be? Because you're sending a message that's going into my personal inbox that only is for me. I don't share it with other people. It is my inbox. We're done with the days like we all share the one AOL account. Okay, we're not there. This is one personal email. Why are you giving me all the same information as you talk to your other 10,000 members? You should know me. You have my data. You have my email address. Why are you not giving me something personal? And then, so that's one problem. And then the second problem is we don't have any new way to get new people onto our email list. We need to be able to do that. And for whatever reason, as the case has evolved, most people use their email newsletters as a membership benefit, which is great. Keep doing it, but do it hyper-personalized. But what they don't do is they don't have a non-member one. Like if I go through most association websites, nobody has an email subscription form, or you're not using a blog to get new email addresses. You need to do that because that way you can get organic new people legally into your email system so you can nurture them. That's a big piece of marketing automation. So over the course of time, associations have added in social media so that they can put out messages out onto channels that aren't so heavily protected, like their members-only website or just their email benefits newsletter. And so they've done a better job of doing that, but most organizations still don't have a really awesome social media strategy. It's a little hit or miss. They're not maybe using the right hashtags to really get to their target markets because they haven't developed targets. They don't have buyer personas. So it's hit or miss. It's helping though, but we need to do more with that. But again, the marketing automation is trying to get out there and get in front of people we don't know to help bring them in so that we can collect their email address and nurture them. That's the point of marketing automation. It's to hit the buyer in the buyer's journey where they are, pull them in, continue to collect data on them, predict what they need, and send them helpful data so we have a relationship. That's, again, remember, let's not lose sight of it. So if we look here, and this is where most associations are right now, you can say, well, you can see the problem, hopefully, very clearly. The technology stack is not set up for that. It's not set up in any way and it has pieces, but it's not completely there yet to be able to amass people that we don't know, pull them in all these different ways across multiple channels, collect information, start to measure it and predict what they want, and automate the flow of the relationship between us and getting more and more personalized as we go. Ultimately, once they become a customer, we're ideally set up for really hyper-personalized communication. And we can see that also, we go back to looking at budgets and tools, we can see that this is not happening in the association space. Again, just reporting on the trend there. It's not happening because our spend is not in these areas. So if we look at the very bottom of where spend is happening, where normally, again, for for-profits, you see a huge amount of spend in the places where they can collect new people they don't know to help attract them back to a landing page or some sort of email sign-up form. You would normally see big spends on things like LinkedIn. LinkedIn advertising, which can be very targeted. You would expect to see a lot more spend in Google AdWords maybe. You'd expect to see a lot of spend in digital advertising, banner ads, retargeting campaigns. All of these ways that I can put things out there, webinars, those are great lead generators. You'd expect to see it in other virtual type of digital content, so that downloads of books and things like that, research studies, so that they can get a relationship going with people who are opting in to say, I'm interested in this topic. But you can see associations aren't doing that because the budget isn't there to do it. They haven't put those pieces in there, and there's knowledge gap of even knowing how to do a retargeting campaign is often not within the association staff. So as we see these things shifting and we see our need to go to get new users we don't know, hopefully we're going to start seeing our budget shift so it starts aligning with the strategy to do that digitally. Because if we keep spending all of our money in our association management system, our email, in our closed loop ecosystem, right, and we don't increase our budget, then we're not going to be able to grow effectively in this digital world, okay? And the last piece of understanding marketing automation is understanding, of course, the user. None of this would matter at all if the user had just stuck with us, if that pesky user had not changed over the years. But the problem is the user has changed. It's hugely changed, right? The consumer. And when we say the user, we mean the consumer. We, the consumer, have changed over the last, certainly 5 years to 10 years with with the internet, with the access that we have, and certainly mobile has forever changed the user experience. So we have to now say, in our buyer's journey, that's really what's changed because of the plethora of information and the availability and the portability of it. We have to really then ask ourselves, if we need to grow and we need to go get these people that we don't know, we need to understand where to go get the people. We need to understand what they're trying to do, how we fit into their worldview, and how we're important. And so to do that, we need to understand the buyer's journey. We need to understand how buyers now shop. We can look at our own behavior and say, you probably don't walk into a car lot and just say, yep, I have no idea of any of the information out there in the cars today. Hello, salesperson, tell me everything, okay? Usually you've done all your shopping online, you've done a lot of research, you've read things, you've looked at things, you've looked stuff up, you've looked at ratings. It's a totally different buyer's journey. Okay, so I don't radically change between going to buy a car nowadays and then going to shop for your stuff at your association. I'm still the same buyer, right? I have the same expectations. I have expectations of how Starbucks works. I come to your association. Why is it different? Okay, I'm not giving you any. I'm not buying the fact that you're a nonprofit and, you know, somehow we can go to 20 years ago how things operate. Because that's the buyer. Because the buyer is no longer like a dog. So you have to ask the question, do buyers behave like dogs? Like we can just tell them anything? We're like, no, boy, it's good. You want to do this. Get the discount. Register today. It's early bird. You go ahead and do it. And they're like, okay, I'll do it today. They don't behave that way anymore, right? Buyers today are far more like cats. They're very difficult and they're very particular. And then from a cat viewpoint, you can't make a cat do anything, right? The only thing you can do is when that cat decides to show up and show you attention and they're ready to invest in you, you better be there. That's the whole premise of marketing automation. Marketing automation is trying to deal with an entire audience group that's nothing but cats. And they understand that the following rules of today's consumer are what actually predominate the entire our entire marketplace. We have to accept these fundamental changes in what's happened to our population. So if we tell people register, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. The early bird discounts don't work the same way they used to. A lot of these kind of discounts and ways that we got to incentive plans that we had that got people to do things in our marketplace, in our particular association membership, et cetera, they don't have the same effect anymore. And people are scratching their heads and saying, why doesn't it work? It used to work great. And that's because the buyer has changed. We have lots of offers. We have coupons every day. We're immune to coupons and discounts and things like that. That's not even, most people, our attention span is only 2 seconds now. So we have to accept some of the following rules, which is the buyer has all the power. People are researching ahead of time. They're doing it more in word of mouth than what you, the brand, as the association, say. It means you need other people supporting you need testimonials. You need other people's word is more important than you, the association. It's too expensive to target everyone. We can't do it all the way we used to do it traditionally. You have to accept that they're going to decide how and when they want to engage with you. And they very might well vote with their feet and say, this is not for me. I don't like your bundles. Your membership benefits don't fit me. They're outdated. I don't want to do that. I don't want to go away to a conference for 4 days, right? This is not working for me. That's great that an email is the member benefit, but I'm not buying it. Like, that doesn't seem like a member benefit to me. It's an email. So these kinds of things we have to accept that our population has changed, and that's why it's so important we understand those personas, okay? So we have to accept that. Right there is usually mind-blowing for a lot of associations and very upsetting because we thought we had this thing nailed and we've been doing this. We got the program down to a science. That email calendar is solid. Every Thursday, this is what we're doing. We're putting in information, but it's not working anymore because, again, the buyers change. And just because it works for us and we have a system that we perfected over the last 15 years, it's probably time for us to disrupt that whole system and rethink it. And that's really the digital transformation that many organizations are undergoing right now as they think about how do I add in marketing automation, okay? Because they know they need to get to new populations, and this new population might be fundamentally different. A big piece of marketing automation, remember I was telling you, it's about understanding the methodology and who we're trying to target. So if we accept this new game, then what we need to do is we need to really be in the game of identifying and predicting how people will behave, right? Which means we need to know what they want and what they don't want. We need to know when they want it and when they don't want it. The only standard that's going to work for us is a continuous value exchange. That's the only thing that works for cats, right? Cats are all about them. So we have to have something where if they come to us, we're providing value. We can't fake it. This is the world of authenticity, total transparency. So if you're trying to sell to me an email, straight up sell to me. Give me like a catalog level, beautiful email where I can see all of my certification classes that I'm shopping. Don't try to hide it with like fluff content to try to cloak the fact that you're trying to sell me, webinar products or seminar products or certification products. We have to have a true, honest-to-goodness, one-to-one value exchange. And I'm going to use you and I'm going to rely on you if you show me that value. Because, again, fundamentally the user has all the power. And also we need to understand that if we're accepting that new game, the purpose of marketing automation is to be able to do something that I can't do by hand, which is give me a one-to-one personalized experience each and every time. There's not enough staff in the world. I do not have the budget to be able to do that in a manual process. So I can get a better email platform, but that's not going to do it if I still have to create every email by hand and if I still have to drag and drop my marketing workflows by hand. I need to go to some next level where the technology is doing that heavy lifting. So think of it this way. Before marketing automation, I really don't have a choice other than to do mass production of the same object. I don't have a choice. How else could I do it? How can I send out 10,000 emails? So let's say I have a monthly newsletter, and I need to send out 10,000 to my membership of 10,000 people, and I want each and every one of them to be a different email based on each person's individual tastes and interests in content, right? And then I want it to automate, so if you clicked on one of the articles, and 3 days later you're going to get another offer, and then 2 days later, if you didn't, you're going to get this. All of those workflows and processes, et cetera, if I'm trying to serve 10,000 people, I got to make it the same. There's no other way I can do it, right, if I don't have the right technology. The purpose of marketing automation technology is to give you that advantage so that you can do it, because I don't have a choice. You're not at fault. No human can do it. You can't customize that many things. You can only do that if I can leverage technology to do that piece of it. That's what technology does well. So with marketing automation, I can now be able to send out, let's say, these communications or these touch points that happen when that person wants it, at their beck and call, based on their choices and their tastes. So now I can send out something, and each one is completely separate for each individual person. I can't do it without the technology. There's no way. I mean, there is way if you just had unlimited time and budget and just could hire that many people to handcraft, all of these different pages and eBooks and landing pages and social media tweets and on and on. But the reality is that's not going to happen. So it's simple. The answer then is, why do people go to marketing automation? It's simple, because all you have to do is gather together all the data on every sort of digital touch point that you possibly can. You have to make sure that every email you send out is personalized with the right offer at the right time. And then I just have to have all that data mapped in such a way that it's going to allow me to easily report on it and analyze it and make business decisions based on what the data is telling me. And then I just have to be able to report on it and be able to make my next decision. So you can see that if I had to do that by hand, I wouldn't be able to do that. There's no way. I mean, I would spend all my time just trying to get out the email. And wouldn't you know it, that's exactly what we find many organizations are doing. They're spending all of their time just trying to create, just hand create, manually create email. They don't even get to the point of being able to look at it comprehensively to say, well, wait, do I have a comprehensive campaign that's omni-channel for this annual meeting? Have I really thought through all of my touch points for my membership marketing campaign? Have I looked at event marketing? I know we do these types of short engagements where we'll come in and we'll look at one of your, let's say your event marketing program, or we'll look at just how do you do membership marketing, let's say for new members. How do you do that from an omni-channel viewpoint? And what we find is that most organizations can't get there because they're spending all their time still caught up doing this manual stuff. Marketing automation is why so many organizations are adopting these new platforms so that they can get past that manual stuff and they can get into the prediction, because this is where you want to be. So why is marketing automation really the thing that everybody is now doing? Because we can't hire enough people to do this manual work. We can't do it. We'd have to employ a small country, right? The thing is, many associations are adopting it because you have the data. You have great data, but it's just not unleashed. You're not putting it to use yet. For the last 20 years, you've been collecting your data, and you've got transactional history, and you've got demographic information, and you've got so much good information that if we could just unleash it, that the communication power is immense. So you have the hard part. Remember what I was saying? Where are associations ahead of for-profit? That is it, that second bullet. If they had half the data that you guys did, it's incredible. It's incredible how much data you have in your database now that you could, if you could just utilize it from a communication viewpoint, it's amazing how personalized you could get your communications. But you're missing the automation, and you're missing a lot of times that strategy and the kind of the know-how, what I say the marketing methodologies of modern kind of day marketing, of digital marketing. Those are the things that are missing. So associations are adopting marketing automation because they need to be able to grow. They need to be able to get in front of people that they don't know legally in the most cost-effective way possible. And they need to be able to get into working with the modern user, which is understanding that they're like the cat. They've got all the power, and it's on them, and they want things the way they want them, and they want things that are relevant only to them. They don't want to have mass market. That's not going to work. So the conclusion that many associations are coming to is that we should probably get a tool that allows us to automate the heavy lifting so we can do the thinking. And that's exactly what we're seeing happen all the time. So when organizations are thinking about growth strategies, they're saying, you know what, how can I possibly effectively grow in today's market without marketing automation? And so to kind of leave you with the last couple of thoughts on that, here I pulled out a list from, from VentureBeat that's top reasons to get marketing automation, so some considerations there for you to think through. And then kind of the way that I would wrap it up is to say that you're going to need marketing automation if you want to do any of these kinds of things. If you really want to find a way, so let's just take out the big, the big workhorse, the big time suck is the email creation. If you need a better way to automate that email and get to that hyper-personalized type of contextual email, marketing automation is going to be something that you need to do. You can probably free up 20, 30 hours a week just in doing that. You're going to need marketing automation if you really want that high-touch personalization across multiple channels, website, email, etc. If you really are looking to generate and nurture new leads, meaning people you don't know, right? You need to use all the channels available to you to capture new email addresses and be able to convert them and lead them down the path to become some sort of buyer of how you define that. If you need to gain email addresses, this is going to help. And really, at the end of the day, you're going to need marketing automation if you really want to start measuring at a campaign level, understanding your spend, and use the data to drive business decisions. That's really why you want to take on marketing automation. You're trying to drive your association using data. You're trying to drive business results in the most economical way possible, right? Biggest bang for your dollar. So last couple of things I would say in terms of resources that I promised. One, just a self-promotion. Subscribe to our blog. It's called BAM, Better Association Marketing. All we talk about is all these types of topics and the trends and who's doing what and why. It's a really fascinating time in marketing technology in the association world. We have an eBook you can download just on our site, just on everything we talked about in a little bit more detail. And lastly, we also have an entire website full of tools and toolkits and papers and webinars and seminars under our HIghRoad U brand. That's it for me today on why to consider marketing automation and why there's so much to talk about on this topic in the exciting association industry in which we all work. Thanks so much.
All right. It doesn't look like we have any questions at this time. If you do have any questions, go ahead and submit. We'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. While we wait, I'm going to go ahead and push a survey live to your screen. You should see that pop up in a few moments. If you would just fill that out for us, it does help us to improve future ASAE webinars, and we appreciate your feedback. Suzanne's contact information is also on the screen. If for some reason you come up with a question later and you want to contact her, feel free to do so. I don't see any questions in the queue, so I'm going to go ahead and close out for the day. Suzanne, again, thanks so much for your wonderful presentation. We always enjoy them. And again, thank you to our attendees for joining us today. We hope you all have a wonderful afternoon.